Welcome back to Orange Hat Reviews, everybody. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. So I'm feeling a little better. Thank you to all the well wishes over the last couple days because I have been sicker than a dog over the last couple weeks, but it really started affecting my health over the last few days. As you can probably tell, my voice isn't 100%. I have a cough drop in my mouth right now, so I am sorry if that is uh, bothers you. I can't help it really. But we're doing Infinity Saga Sundays. We're back with Avengers, and Riot Kitty is late. CS did say she will be late because she is doing another stream for another person for a second or for a bit, but she will be coming in soon. Hey Phil, how you doing? Vanya, good to see you. And yeah, so we got part of the Hat crew here, just the guys so far. Jacob and Ambassador, how you guys doing?
Doing good. Thank you for having me back.
Well, of course.
I continue to be surprised that you do, but I'm excited to be back.
Yep.
This is where the fun begins.
Mm-hmm. So we are going to try a different formula. And
hey, MB, good to see you, bud.
We're going to try a different formula with this stream. We're going to still do a discussion of the film, but it's not going to be scene by scene. We're going to be discussing favorite lines, favorite scenes, and favorite characters throughout the film and the story arc. So, with that being said, the stories that I want to cover are the Thor, Hulk, and Thanos and Battle of New York, because everything starting from just before the Battle of New York starts, where Stark is arriving, and Thor versus Hulk and the Hulk scenes, all that stuff. Hulk has been a favorite character of mine for quite some time. I want to be able to discuss that specifically. Ambassador, I think you said you wanted to do Steve Stark.
I'm just going to be discussing Stark, and I'm going to be talking about two of my favorite scenes. It's actually in the aftermath of the battle on the helicarrier, and they're more character driven scenes than action direct focused scenes. It's in the aftermath of Loki, of the attack on the helicarrier, Loki's escape, and it's the scenes with Steve and and Tony and everything, and with Natasha and Clint. So, Okay, I'll talk to you later, MB.
All right, yep. So, the beginning of the scene or movie starts with the Tesseract. They're doing the Marvel Studios thing, and you see the Tesseract, and we hear the voice of the other. And I really do like this scene because it completely just jumps you into, this is an extra galactic movie. This isn't grounded on Earth. This is going to be like Thor because, well, Thor is extra galactic as well. And I really do like the other's speech. The Tesseract has awakened. It is on a little world, a human world. They would wield its power, but our ally knows it like no other. And we see Loki be handed the scepter. And we see that there's an army, the Chitauri. And I absolutely love how he says, in the humans, what can they do but burn? And you think that this other, because they call him simply the other, is a very powerful being. That's what you kind of get from him. I mean, he does have slight power because he can move very fast, apparently, which we see later when he's talking to Loki. But in all honesty, he's an underling to who we find out later is Thanos. And we then get the opening scene at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters with NASA, where Loki arrives. The Tesseract is misbehaving, and evac has been ordered because the Tesseract is actually behaving. It's not it's actually acting in a way that suggests behavior. It's resisting Shield's efforts to study it. It's giving off low levels of gamma radiation, which they make a big deal about in this movie. And I do love it. It's like nothing harmful, just low levels of gamma radiation. That can be harmful. And I really do like how they also introduced Colby Smulders into this movie as Agent Hill. Colby Smulders, folks, did a great job as Maria Hill. She is a perfect Maria Hill in the phase or in the Marvel movies that I have seen her in.
Totally agree.
And
Absolutely
honestly,
agree.
I think, yes, I also watched episodes of How I Met Your Mother, where she was also a character in, and I thought that she was great in that one too. I mean, she played a Canadian. I don't know if she's Canadian in real life, but she played a great role in it. But
Had a terrible ending, but great show otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, that show was just nuts in so many different ways. But anyway, hey, Christian, good to see you. The other reminds him of the mouth of Sauron. You know what? That's actually a very apt description, kind of, because he speaks for Thanos. He doesn't speak as what Thanos would say, but he speaks he is the go-between between other people and Thanos. So it does kind of make sense. And so we get into this scene where Loki arrives.
Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, Colby Smulders is actually from Vancouver, Canada. So yes, she is actually Canadian.
All right, so she is Canadian. So Loki arrives, and I love that. Please put down the spear. He looks at it, and he starts shooting it. And I love how he actually he sticks it forward, and it just kind of has a recoil with the scepter, which is pretty cool. But also, you don't see that there's some recoil in certain scenes. That is one inconsistency. However, it just shows that this thing has a lot of power behind it. We also notice that Hawkeye is also in the scene. Hawkeye aims and shoots Loki right in the face. And howdy, Deucey, yes?
Hey, how are you?
And good. And so Asgardians are technically, to a degree, bulletproof. It is suggested, or at least Loki is, because he's taken AR-15, M16 rounds. I mean, 5.56 to 7.62s, and they're just bouncing off of him.
Well,
and 9mm bounce right off his face. So
technically, he's not Asgardian. He's a frost giant.
Frost baby.
He's Jotun. He's Jotun.
Yep. He's a vanilla ice.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Wow.
Jake, no, you didn't.
But I do like, jeez. I do like how he then uses it to subdue others. He turns Barton to his side, a guard, and then his
Selvig.
dialogue with he turns Selvig. But I love his reaction when Selvig says, "Loki, brother of Thor." He's like, it's like, do I need to be reminded of that?
Yes, you do, because you are Thor's brother, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. And I just love that because
never mind.
He has the most abstract contradiction in his glorious purpose that he's burdened with, where he comes with glad tidings of a world made free. Free from what? Freedom. Freedom is life's great lie. And unfortunately, I am going to frickin' say this. Unfortunately, there are people that actually believe that in today's world, sadly, folks. I mean, Loki, or if you look at his conversation at Stuttgart, Germany, before he fights with Cap, where he said, or the stuff he says there are people out there that actually live by that kind of stuff, which is really sad if you really think about it.
I actually
But
tend to agree with him. So
in a way, I mean, some of what he says, yes, it's
But-
freaking downright evil, but in other ways, there are people that do believe that they should be ruled.
well, I mean, and that's kind of like the part I liked about Loki as the villain in the film is that he had a good reason for it, and even if it's like it's a good reason that's used in a bad way, for what it's worth. Because I think that we're all creatures who worship things, and we do have a desire to worship, like as a Christian, you know, like we are supposed to be ruled by God, and so it's like taking that place though where you have Loki as the ruler. I think you're just asking for trouble. So,
Well, you've got
Um,
power hungry Vanilla Ice Giant. So yeah, that's an issue. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna let you
so it's
forget
not
that,
a-
Jake.
yeah, it's not a question of being ruled. It's a question that somebody will rule over you, and that's why, like in like classic literature, it's about being your own ruler and being in charge, master your own fate. So
And so he then, or one thing I also do like about Hawkeye is his observational skills. This man looks up at the Tesseract's energy that is accumulated at the roof of the chamber they're in, and he immediately puts it together. Fury is stalling. This place is about to blow. And he doesn't bother denying it like the pharaohs of old.
You know, when oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when I saw this movie in theaters, that other agent that he turned, I thought it was Quartermain. For those of you who don't know, in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comics, Quartermain was kind of one of Fury's right-hand men. He led a lot of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. missions and stuff in the specifically the S.H.I.E.L.D. comics. Animation fans will know him. He was a main character in Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So I thought it was Quartermain. I was like, oh, what a great way to work him into the story, but I don't think they ever actually conclusively said, hey, this is Agent Quartermain. But would have been cool if that had happened, because he has the same look. He's blonde like that character, and real ex-military, real stiff like he was. So but like I said, I don't think any Marvel ever confirmed that was Quartermain, so I was a little disappointed. But I was like, oh wow, it's Quartermain! Awesome! How'd he get in here? So.
But
that's what headcanon is for.
Yeah. And then we see them try to escape, where Nicholas Fury survives getting shot by Hawkeye. And Hawkeye actually, in a deleted scene, explains to Loki, because Loki does actually question him. He's like, you left Fury alive. And he's like, well, I don't like guns. I'm more accurate with the bow. I mean, if he had his bow with him, he would have easily outed Fury or off Fury. But yeah, that didn't work so well. And we also get to see Agent Hill, or Colby Smolder's accuracy. When she's shooting, even at a driving, moving target, she's pretty dead on, even though she misses the targets. But she's leading the targets too. And this is a character that is ready and willing to kill if necessary, because something that a lot of people don't know, I've been in a car where windshield had to be kicked out. And when she's trying to stop these guys, she literally just fires right into her own windshield without flinching. That's not easy, folks. When you fire a firearm, one thing that a lot of people do is blink. Why do you think the Terminator wears sunglasses? Why do you think Blade wears sunglasses? Because they're blinking whenever they're firing those guns. The Underworld movie, the first one, they actually did a good job at training the actors to not blink when they were fighting off or firing off the weapons. But that's a discussion for a different franchise. Brett Heeman, good to see you. Skyhound, I see you in there too. So, one of the things that I do also like about this is, after the Tesseract blows and everybody evacuates, he asks, what do? We get ready. and then we get the uh, Avengers logo, and we start right off with Black Widow's Russian interrogation. So that's the first bit of the Loki stuff. So I'm gonna bring it over to Jacob. What's your favorite scenes and stuff that you want to talk about?
One of my favorite scenes is this scene with Black Widow and Coulson. It's for one of the things was Coulson, when he was introduced in Iron Man 2, Thor, so on. He was always kind of a sideline character. They kind of played it off like he was more like an errand boy. And even in Thor, when he had a little bit bigger role, you never got the sense that he had the same dynamic as, say, Black Widow did. Well, obviously, because she's more of a field undercover agent. But in this scene, we see Coulson is actually an equal to Black Widow. And I thought that was really cool that how they brought that in. And they showed, it's just one of my favorite scenes. It definitely shows the sort of humor and care that went into the script, where, he basically threatens this Russian guy and he's like, hey, we got to bring you back in, Widow. And she goes, this guy is giving me everything. And, he goes, I not give everything, that's such a great scene. And the way she looks at him just, again, goes to show how great of an actress Scarlett Johansson is. And so then he tells her, Clint's been compromised. We need you to come back. We do the whole thing with he wants her to come to Hulk. But one of the reasons, this is another reason why it's still my favorite of the MCU films out of all the ones that have been made, is this scene showing that, yes, this is a serious movie with serious stakes, but we can laugh our way to the apocalypse, so to speak. That I think the script, this particular scene, shows how well the script is, and with going through it and seeing the dynamic, and Coulson, I always thought of Coulson as the glue, right? Because this is, Nick Fury describes him as the push that brought the Avengers together, which is kind of interesting because Hulk doesn't know who Coulson is, but enough of them do to know that his sacrifice. And as much as I loved the first and second season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I always thought that bringing him back kind of cheapened his sacrifice. If they were to bring him back, the Avengers should have known that he was back. But I think there was actually a rumor he was supposed to have a cameo in Age of Ultron, but that didn't work out. But I think that seeing how his character goes from sort of being this errand boy to he's equal with Black Widow, and finally he's the glue that brings the Avengers together. I really think that's something special. With the comic books, the Avengers came together because they thought Hulk was causing trouble, and it turned out to be Loki. Loki was actually the one I think he had disguised himself as the Hulk and was basically framing the Hulk. And they came together. If I remember that correctly, that's what happened. He was causing trouble, and some people were trying to contact the Fantastic Four, ended up contacting the Avengers. But it was the same. We're going to come together because some forces are greater than all of us. One of us can put out a few fires, but with us together, we're stronger. We're a force. And I think with the movies, they were lacking sort of a way for all of them to come together in that sense. So Coulson being there, that's why I always say he's the key. Fun fact about this movie, this was actually the first movie that I took my wife to see, then girlfriend. So she had no idea who the Avengers were. She did not grow up in a nerd culture at all. And so I had an extra ticket and I said, hey, you want to come to this movie? Technically, it was our fourth date, but I always call it like our real date because I actually spent money on her. So we went to the, I know. I see about, I know. He's shaking his head, but
wow,
we had a lot of fun. I bought her popcorn and a hot dog and something else, I think, but we had a lot of fun. But she was like, she hadn't seen any of the movies. So she was like, who are all these people? But she told me, that didn't really matter to her because the movie did such a good job of giving each person good character development, even a little bit, to make them stand out and be recognizable. and she was really sad when Coulson died. She liked his character, and when I was kind of expecting someone to die, because Joss Whedon, he is known for killing off like a beloved character in all of his movies. So I was sort of expecting someone to die, but I honestly thought it was going to be Mariah Hill, because I was expecting her to be the ones. But when it was Coulson, I was definitely heartbroken, because, like I said, I had known him since Iron Man. And that's one thing that old school MCU was really good at, was making you feel for these characters, to make you connect with them on a human level. And especially the scene with Coulson's cards, he wanted Cap to sign them all. And you see sort of the fanboying. I always like to think in that moment that was Coulson being a nerd, being a Marvel fan. Like if all of us were to meet.
It's your movie spiritual animal.
Yeah, I guess you could say. That's why when we said we were going to do this different format, I wanted to talk about Coulson for that reason. So, but yeah, that was kind of my favorite parts of the movie. I think if I would to pick a favorite scene, it's the one where they all come together for the first time in the middle, and they do that camera pan where they're all readying their weapons. That's probably my favorite scene. But as far as what makes the movie works for me, it's how they all came together with Coulson's sacrifice.
And another thing I'll like to point out about Coulson, he's a super soldier stalker.
He is.
Because I've watched you while you were sleeping. While you were unconscious. And it's just a real good thing to have you on board.
I was present when.
Yeah, it's just
keeps trying to get more and more official.
Yeah, and one of the things about these opening scenes, before we go further, is that they're transitional by the description of the last line of the scene before. When he's saying, when we get to the world's or the big guy, you go to the Hulk. When it's just so then we get to the Hulk scene where he's in Calcutta, and this little girl asks for his help, and she ends up leading him, the widow, to the edge of the city, and he tells her, it's like, and you got me to the edge of the city. Smart. I assume the whole place is surrounded, just you and me. Come on now, folks.
Good scene. Good scene.
It is. And
the trailer made that scene seem way more tense than it was.
Yeah, because
that scene was as tense as it was in the trailer.
Yeah, they do the whole green glow outside the window or outside the door to make it look like he might be transforming inside that room. But one of the things I will say about the trailers, they are very deceptive. The trailers these trailers also had unfinished effects. When you see Thor lifting his hammer to charge the hammer, you don't see the lightning hitting it. When you see the New York being attacked, you don't see the ships or their beam or their projectiles being shot. You just see the explosions, and it's like, oh, okay, are we getting another terrorist attack in New York? But whatever. But I do like the scene between Natasha Romanoff, and a lot of people say that this is what led to the whole relationship. It's like, I don't know why there was a relationship between Natasha and Bruce in Ultron. I just don't know why, but I'm guessing it's because Joss Whedon. But I
will have controversial thoughts when we talk about Age of Ultron.
Yeah, folks.
CJ has heard them.
Yeah, it's
okay. I got my own ready.
It is no secret that Joss Whedon is one perverted bastard. Let's just say that. However, he does do a good job with what he is doing. However, you can tell with what he puts in that there is a sexual element to it, especially around the female characters. Let's just say that. When we get to Age of Ultron, I'll point that out. However, with the scene, I do like how Bruce actually tests her. Is like, what does Fury want me to do with this? Swallow it? And she's like, no, she wants you to track it. And he's like, he wants to put me in a cage? No, but he wants you to stop lying to me. You think he's going to turn at that moment. and she just pulls the gun out like really freaking quick. I'm sorry, that was mean. I just wanted to see what you'd do. And I'm like, he really does have a lid on it. Holy crap, he's learned.
This is where we first meet Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk.
Yep. And this is Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner instead of Ed Norton because the differences. And while I will say that I like Ed Norton's Hulk movie better, you see more Mark Ruffalo because he becomes the new Permanent. And we then see she is like, all right, let's put that away so the big guy doesn't come out and make a mess. Stand down. Everybody's freaking outside of the damn place. Just you and me, huh? And so she puts it away. Now, the World Security Council, he talks to... I still wonder to this day why the World Security Council was ever a thing. It mainly served a focus for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And that was it. But
if I can, I didn't mean, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had heard that they weren't ready to introduce the UN as a real element yet.
No,
because it was supposed to be kind of futuristic. Obviously, this takes place at least a decade in the future, obviously. But well, you know what I mean. I mean, as far as technology-wise, I don't mean
technology-wise, sure, but it was
right. No, I didn't mean literally. I meant technology-wise. So they weren't quite ready to introduce the UN as a real element. In the original comic, S.H.I.E.L.D. was its own thing, but I think recently now they're an arm of the UN. I think in the Ultimate Comics, they actually were part of NATO. So it makes sense that there was some third party overseeing them. Yeah. And fun fact before we move forward, Eric Bana was actually considered to play the Hulk again because they were just going to do it to mock Norton because of how poorly the negotiations went for his contract. So they actually were going to bring Eric Bana back, but then Paramount decided not to because they thought, this will confuse people. They'll think Ang Lee's Hulk is the MCU Hulk, not the Incredible Hulk. So we'll just bring in Mark Ruffalo, who is actually their second choice to play Hulk in the Incredible Hulk. So
he was good.
Now, at the end of this scene where Fury's talking with the Security Council, it's like war's not won by sentiment. No, it's won by soldiers. Well, then they transition over to Steve in the boxing ring. Now, I'm not going to go over that because that's Ambassador's bit. But one of the fun things about the end of that scene, before we go to, I will get to, don't worry.
I'm not worried about it.
One of the last lines he says is, "You should have left it in the ocean," and then they transition over to Stark in the ocean, which is a fun way of storytelling, which was actually a whole plot device by the movies director and writers. So I'll give it over to Ambassador. What was your take, or let's hear your takes on this on the early sequences.
Okay. In terms of my character, Stark, I love Stark. Robert Downey Jr., he was the perfect pick for Stark. And this is what his part in this movie, he is almost like he's the mirror image of Loki. And when he's talking to Steve after Loki has escaped, and he's like, he's full tilt diva. He wants a big show. He wants his name plastered on top of a building. He's like, son of a bitch. And it pops right to Stark Tower in Manhattan. And Stark and Steve's conversation there. And Steve is a career soldier. He has been a soldier. He's been Captain America. He fought in World War II. He knows that life. Stark is an industrialist who built weapons for the military, but he was never a soldier. He's like, we're not soldiers. You might be, but I'm not. I'm an industrialist. And he's like, Eugene is playboy for philanthropist. Everybody knows the quote. Everybody loves the quote. I love the quote. When they're in the lab there on the helicarrier, and they're going back and forth, and you can tell that the Mind Stone inside Loki's scepter is playing on everybody, and Stark and Rogers are just going back and forth bickering. And he's like, "Let's see how tough you are. Put on the suit." And he's like, "You don't want me to put on the suit." He's like, "Put on the suit." And then everything goes haywire, and Stark is like, "I better put on the suit." Robert Downey Jr.'s timing, the way he does his dialogue in this movie, because he's got other characters to bounce off of now. It's not just him and Pepper, or just him and Coulson, or just him and Happy, or just him and whatever villain he's fighting, whether it's Obadiah Stane or Ivan Vanko or Justin Hammer. He's in a room with a demigod, a super soldier, two incredibly gifted scientists, just like himself. Granted, his scientific acumen is more on the industrial side, the technological side, whereas Banner's is more on the hard, in engineering. Whereas Banner's is more theoretical physics type and
biology and chemistry
and biology and
chemistry.
More sciencey. More science than Stark. But there's still that common bond between the two of them. And when Stark comes into the command center of the helicarrier, and he's like, "No hard feelings, point break. You got a mean swing."
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. And he's walking in. He puts that little device on the back of one of the consoles. Just does it very nonchalantly. I mean, for heaven's sakes, you've got a room full of spies. How the hell did they miss him doing that? These are all
simple.
spies. He's Tony Stark. I know.
He's touching the screens. He's playing with the screens so they wouldn't, or so he could automatically be put out of suspicion. That was his whole point.
Exactly.
That man is playing Galaga.
And then it's like, that guy's playing Galaga.
That man is playing Galaga. Didn't think we would notice, but he
pop it in. And then he would pop it in after he walked right by the console. It was that simple. He was just allaying their suspicions by tapping the screens, looking at the stuff, and whatnot.
And a man who has no formal field training as a spy or a person with experience in espionage, he'd make a hell of a spy. Let's be honest here. He needs a little more field training. Maybe he needs a little more espionage training, but he'd make a good spy. But instead, he's an industrialist. He's a genius. Tony Stark, field agent. But, there's that great dichotomy between Stark and Rogers, because one is the brains and the other is the brawn. One is the very quippy, very quick on his feet, very easily to come up with a snarky remark, but a real good burn. But at the same time, he cares about fulfilling the mission, and he ultimately cares about protecting New York. It's not just about his own ego, though ego does play a part in what he does. But at the same time, he's a showman. When he comes to Stuttgart, and he's got Shoot to Thrill blasting out of the speakers on his suit, and he lands, and he's standing right next to Steve Rogers, and he's like, "Captain." And you've got that parallel with him and Coulson, where Coulson's fanboying, as Jake pointed out so well and everything, about being next to Captain America, and Stark's like, "This is the guy that my dad bragged about so much."
Well, because
even a bit of a burn on his dad.
Yeah, think about it. His father doted over Captain America, and that's a highlight of his life. So yeah, of course, Stark's or his son's going to have a little bit of resentment toward him. But actually, the small correction, no offense, he actually took over the Quinjet speaker.
Okay, Quinjet speaker. All right, either way.
He actually, because when he says, "Agent Romanoff, did you miss me?" it shows audio override.
Oh, that's right. It does. It does. But, there's that great dichotomy, as I've mentioned, between Rogers and Stark. And it really comes to the forefront in the aftermath of Loki escaping and killing Coulson. And Stark is acting very emotionally, whereas Rogers is, but at the same point, he's like, he was a soldier. He was doing his job. And Stark is like, we're not soldiers. We're not like you, Captain. We're not like you, Captain America. We haven't fought in war. We're not
marching
trained
the
soldiers.
Fury Fife.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like we are not soldiers. That was the one thing that was when he dropped that line, he dropped all of his, or that was the last of his anger towards Cap.
Yeah.
Because that was the last time he snapped at him.
Yeah, exactly.
In that film.
Yeah, at least for this film, it's the last time he snaps at Steve. Now, the other scene I wanted to discuss is also in the aftermath of Loki's escape from the helicarrier, and this is Barton and Natasha's conversation. One thing I liked about that scene is where the picture is slightly distorted when it's particularly focused on Barton, when it's still him trying to get his head completely clear and get all that programming that Loki pushed into it with the spear and everything, the scepter that has the Mind Stone in it, which we find out later. I know, but we know this now, so might as well reference it. Be done with it.
Sure.
He uses the Mind Stone to control people's minds. And he's like, do you know what it's like to have somebody pull your insides out and shove something in and play? And she's like, yeah, I'm a spy. I've been trained for this.
You know what it's like to be unmade?
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, I do. It's how I became what I am.
Yep.
Yeah, it's how she became what she is. And he's like, how many people did I kill? And she's like, don't you do it. This is monsters and magic, and this is Loki, and this is nothing we were trained for. Okay. And the emotional weight between these two characters, two people that have worked together in the past, and everything, and we give reference to it and everything, particularly during the Battle of New York or the Battle of Manhattan, when she's like, this reminds me of Budapest. And he's like, you and I remember Budapest very differently. And, and that's, I think, is one of the great strengths of this movie. One beat, it can be very serious and very heavy and very character focused. The next minute, they're in the middle of a battle and they're quipping.
Yep.
That for me was that's one of the things that I really appreciated about Avengers, because I never saw Avengers in theater. I got a copy of it when it came out on home video. The first copy I had was on DVD when DVD was still the main format. And then I finally got a copy of it on Blu-ray, and the picture pops even more. I remember the first time I sat down and watched it, I got as a Christmas present from a friend, and they're like, "You're gonna love this." I'm like, "Okay." I like the other Marvel stuff, and I watched it. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna start it again." That's how much I loved it. But as going back to Stark, as he's going throughout the movie, we see him in the ocean, we see him in the suit, then we see him coming out of the suit. I have to say, ever since the first movie, his transitioning out of the armor, or the armor being, and you just love it. He's walking along and everything. You have two sequences where this happens. It's when he's coming to see Pepper, and then when he's coming to confront Loki. And the armor just comes off so effortlessly. And it just shows the innovation and the forward thinking of Stark's character. And he's like, we are transitioning Stark Industries from a weapons manufacturing industry, a technologically advanced industry. And when he's talking to Banner, when he first gets on the helicarrier, he's like, you need to come to Stark Tower. There's a certain number of floors, pure R&D. It's like Candyland. He's like, I promise a stress-free environment. And then in a couple of scenes later, they're down in the lab on and he takes some sort of poker and everything and shocks him, and he's like, you really got a lid on that, don't you? It's a testament to how different writers can carry through the thread of how a character is portrayed. But you do see an evolution of Stark, particularly at the end of everything when he's taking the nuke through the portal. And I do want to discuss that because I have a few theories, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on this, because this has always been a huge sticking point for a lot of people, and I can't understand why, but I do have a theory. but I want to finish up. I want to finish up my discussion with Stark real quick. His evolution, just in this movie, he goes from the very quippy, the very kind of smart ass industrialist to being a guy who gets down to business when business has to be taken care of. And he has that. You had that very iconic dialogue between him and Loki, and he's like, "Are you planning to threaten me?" He's like, "No." He's like, Have you come to bargain?" He's like, "Nope, I come to threaten you." He's like, "Should have kept your armor on for that." He's like, "Yeah, it seems a bit of mileage. You got the glow stick of destiny there." And he goes through that whole dialogue, and Loki's like, "I have an army. We have a Hulk."
There's no
Just
throne.
absolutely
There's
owns
no
Loki in
version of
every
it.
single.
Sorry.
Where you come out as where there is no throne. There is no version of this where you come out on top.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's an absolutely great piece of banter back and forth. And Loki picks him up by the throat, and he's like, Jarvis, launch now."
Deploy.
And I almost wish we had a counter for how many times Loki got knocked on his ass. And in the span of a minute, he got knocked on his ass twice by Stark. Once by the suit of armor, and the second time when he actually blasts him with the repulsor rays from his suit. And here you have this big menacing bad guy villain, and he's consistently getting knocked on his ass. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, I'm supposed to be afraid of you?
Well, he is superhuman, or he has superhuman attributes, but he is not invincible, which is one of the things I do like.
Yes,
well, I was just going to say, this is something I like about this movie is every character has or I should say all the Avengers have a moment with Loki. And even down to Hulk's moment, which is the shortest, but it's the best, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's, the whole beauty god scene. But that just is it's amazing because a lot of movies, the stakes of a certain character's connection to the villain, but this, and they'll skip over the others' connection. Like we saw this real big in the Hunger Games, right? So only Katniss really has a connection to the final boss, and then the final boss of the final movie. And it's but you don't really know everyone else's sort of way in it, and the books do a better job of that, by the way. But in this film, they weave it where every character has a moment, and you understand how the villain threatens them or how they threaten him. And I think that was a really cool aspect of this movie.
I'm going to piggyback on that later. So,
actually, it's your turn right now. So,
okay. So, kind of going with that, one of the things that I really enjoy about this film is that at the heart of a lot of it is the theme of manipulation. Right. So that's probably why I like it. So like you guys were talking about Coulson's character earlier, and Coulson kind of, he goes off to Natasha to get a hold of Bruce, and he relies on her to, even throughout the whole scene where they're talking on the phone and she's with the Russian or whatever other country spies people. Yeah. Well, she's she's in control of the scene, which we kind of figure out closer to the end. So she's manipulating the entire conversation there, and then Coulson's manipulating her to get to Bruce, and then she manipulates him to get going. And for kind of like earlier what you were saying with Stark, Tony is very good at putting people kind of like on notice. He uses his humor and his ego and his kind of like showmanship to keep people off balance, so he can be kind of in control of the situation. And the same thing for Loki. So Loki's obviously here to manipulate the circumstances to the point where he will get out and be on top of the world, which is kind of like again the idea that there's no real throne and there's no way that you'll win because you can't win, is kind of like a miscalculation on his part. And it, and again, he also has, he really does show how the failure to take these things into consideration will affect people in the long run, whether it's with the Hulk and beating him up, or Natasha and figuring out his ultimate plan, and even like losing control of Clint, and just the Selgrig, Eric Selgrig's like putting the whole kill switch thing in and stuff. So it's kind of fun to see the villain fail, just because he fails because of everybody else, obviously, but still he fails because of his own kind of weakness. Okay. And I think that's perfect character driven stuff. I like that. When it comes to Stark and Tony, like Steve's not somebody that's going to be easily moved. He is very principled. He is taught to respond under pressure and to stay still and to advance. So it is kind of interesting seeing them play together, just because you have somebody that's constantly moving versus somebody who won't be moved. And it speaks more to their personalities rather than their personalities and their methods of getting things done rather than the ultimate goal. And I know, like in the further down the line, those viewpoints will become more dichotomized and divergent from each other. And I think that's kind of they did very well for. Hi, Jasper. They did very well for introducing that other kitty in this movie. So
nice. One of the things I also do like about this film is that they give all the Avengers a chance to fight against each other for most of them. Where Hawkeye only fights against Black Widow, but Widow also fights against the Hulk. Not that it's much of a fight. It's mostly just get the fuck away. But you also get Thor versus the Hulk, which is a nice, or Thor versus Cap and Thor versus Iron Man, and then, there's just so many great small pitched battles just to see who's really top dog in all of it. And in the Stuttgart after Stuttgart, where they actually capture Loki, I do like how Loki does show a little bit of worry simply because it's thunder and lightning. I'm not overly fond of what follows. And he takes jabs at Thor in this scene. He's like, or when Thor busts him out, and he tells him, he's like, do I look like to be in a gaming moon? Oh, you should thank me. With the Bifrost destroyed, how much dark energy did the Allfather have to conjure to muster you here, your precious Earth? And then one of the things he throws at Loki, or at Thor, I remember a shadow living in the shade of your greatness. I remember you tossing me into an abyss. And I'm thinking to myself, Mandela effect much, dude? You let go of the spear and dropped yourself into that abyss. Which was always kind of a thing for me. It's like, that is one writing point where it's maybe him trying to justify his own actions, or that's the only possible explanation I can think of, because honestly, I can't think of another one. But when Thor he's like, you listen well, brother. Bam! It's like,
I'm listening.
That was just so freaking perfect.
First time I saw that, I busted out laughing. I still get a chuckle out of that even now after so many times seeing this.
And it really is so great for that scene. He's like, do not touch me again. Then don't take my stuff. And Shakespeare in the Park. But does mother know you weareth her drapes? But one of the things to ambassadors, going back to one of ambassadors' points with the suit and how he's constantly tinkering and whatnot. The first movie we saw him, he was having a hard time getting out of the suit. The second movie, he's able to get out of the suit as he's standing, or as he's still on the Stark Expo stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer a problem. They're able to do it. Now, what's the next step up? Movement with the suit to be taken off. So he's able to walk around and get it taken off on Avengers Tower. And what is the main problem with, or we also need a suit that can deploy and get put on in an emergency situation in case the need arises. That's what the Mark 7 was for. Which
I
is
was going to say that's in Iron Man 3.
Mm-hmm.
No, the Mark 42 is in Iron Man 3. The Mark 7 is from the Avengers
Oh,
as his new suit after he got rid of the other one after Loki threw him out a window. It's just he's constantly tinkering, and I absolutely love it. One of the things is of this one, he's making sure that he has a full speed and battle tactical advantage. Where if he needs extra thrusters, he has thrusters on his freaking delt or on his freaking pectorals, in his armor, extra thrusters wherever he needs. But also, he has a non-combat HUD to a combat HUD, right? Army, and that's one of the greater things that I like about it too. Now, going back to the Hulk's Hulk out is one of the things I really do like is when he does Hulk out, he gives one final look of worry at Natasha. It's like, oh my God, if she can't get out of here, I'm about to kill her. And he doesn't want to change, but Loki kind of forced it. So when she gets smacked by the Hulk, and when she goes to go after Barton, she's shaken. This is something that truly shook the hell out of her, which is another great. It's like, this is a very hardened spy, but even hardened spies can be shaken by experiences that are beyond them. You know, this movie does a great job with psychology. What were you saying?
Oh, it really helps up the stakes.
Yeah.
Hey, audience, you're supposed to care about this.
Yeah. And then we get to Thor versus Hulk, which is one of the greater things because it also shows that Thor can pretty much stop the Hulk even without the hammer. He can actually block his hit or block his arm with just one arm. Mm-hmm. And he tries to reason with him, but it doesn't work. Now, the Harrier jet that they ripped the wing off of, that's from True Lies. That Harrier jet. That is the one that Arnold Schwarzenegger flies in the movie True Lies.
I don't know, just that.
Not exactly. That's a different design because the Harrier jets, their engines are the vertical lift engines are displaced along the fuselage. That fighter is I think an F-22 Raptor, and
watch the movie with the audio commentary.
It doesn't remind me of the design of a Harrier because the Harriers doesn't have that engine that can pivot straight down like that fighter can, unless it's a newer model of Harrier I'm not aware of.
Watch the audio commentary. They actually said that came from True Lies.
Was it like a set piece, or is it just?
It may have been a set piece. It could have been, but he said that was the jet, or that was the Harrier from True Lies.
Well, it might have been inspired by the Harrier from True Lies, but the engine on the back of that fighter is completely different from a Harrier jump jet because the Harrier has two engines on the back, and then it's got the four fuselage mounted engines that give it its lift.
That's because the Harrier too, yeah.
The
Harrier 2 was in prototype phase during the time True Lies was made.
That might be the case too, but the Harrier looks completely different in this movie compared to True Lies.
Well, also the plane or the jets that were surrounding the helicarrier were not Harriers; those were F-35s.
No, yeah, that I know.
Yeah, but also,
a lot of times they have to change set pieces slightly for copyright reasons.
Yeah,
they've had other films have had problems where they use set pieces from other films and then they get sued. Yep. So that's that could be possible that they just alternated a little bit.
Possibly. Also, one good example of set piece being taken out was during Terminator 2 when, small sidetrack, folks, during the T-1000 versus T-800 in the mall if you pay close attention to the background, you see somebody grab something to pull it out of scene. That's actually was a sponsor that pulled their product at the last minute before filming.
Oh,
that's rough.
But, yeah, to go on to Jacob's point there. But going back into it, one of the things I really did like was Hulk trying to lift the hammer after getting smacked by it in the face. I mean, I'm like, I wonder how hard this is going to hurt or how much this is going to hurt Hulk. Because when Thor whips that hammer, he lets him have it. He fully lets him have it. And Hulk, it pisses him off and he tries lifting it and it doesn't work. And I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be interesting. Because there is a cartoon Avengers movie that was Thor versus the Hulk, where Thor or the Hulk manages out of brute strength, because he kept on getting himself angrier and angrier, managed to lift the hammer, but not to any useful note or not to any use.
Just though for a sidetrack, that was Ultimate Avengers. In the Ultimate Universe, now I don't know if they made this clear in the movie. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it. Fun fact: I auditioned to play Iron Man in that film. In the Ultimate Universe, it's actually not Mjolnir, so it doesn't have the same level of what is it called, the charm on it, where Odin can't, only Thor can lift it, or those worthy. That's why. Yeah, it doesn't have the enchantment, so that was why.
This wasn't an Ultimate Avengers movie. This wasn't an Avengers movie. This was Hulk versus Thor.
I don't remember Hulk lifting. I don't remember him lifting the hammer.
Hulk was actually brought to Asgard by Loki.
I do remember that. Yeah,
to separate him from Bruce Banner so that Loki could possess the Hulk. Didn't turn out very well. But
that's a good movie. Hulk versus Wolverine too.
That was part of the.
Yeah, I remember that. Well. That was an anime. That
was also
when Marvel cared about animation.
Thor versus Hulk and Thor versus.
Yep, and
still did to a degree.
Hulk, yeah. Now getting back to the movie, one of the things that
just
go ahead.
Just a couple of pictures I wanted to share real quick.
All right.
I'm not trying to be a know-it-all, and I'm not trying to be a jerk, but okay. Just to give some context to what we were discussing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is
I'm kind of just your normie person for reference.
From True Lies.
Mm-hmm.
Got it? Okay.
Yep.
That's the okay. This is the F-35 Lightning from the Avengers. Not the same fighter.
You know what that reminds me of?
I'm talking about when he was fighting Hulk inside of the helicarrier. I'm not talking about one of the planes on the outside. The one where he ripped the wing off.
That reminds me more of like the X-Men jet.
Yes, is that fighter?
That's an F-30. That's based on an F-35.
That's the exact same.
That is an F-35. What I'm talking about is Hulk.
It also makes me think of the
exact same thing. It just has an engine that will pivot. It's not the same as a Harrier.
That's not the jet that I'm talking about.
It might have a feature like a Harrier, but it's not a Harrier. If you're talking about the one that fires on the Hulk during the part,
that's not the one I'm talking about.
Fighting Thor.
That's not the one I'm talking about.
It's the exact same fighter. Which one are you talking about then?
I'm talking about the one inside of the helicarrier
in the movie.
No, it isn't.
Can you pull up a picture, Orange Hat? Because I'd like a reference.
Working on it right now.
Okay, great. Yes, we don't have know-it-alls here. We have nerd-it-alls. I like it.
Yes, we do.
It was the SR. The X-Men jet is based on the SR Blackbird. Sorry,
it's on the SR Blackbird. That's why it's called the Blackbird.
I was seeing F-35, so my brain processed that instead of SR.
Here we go, and share screen.
Well, I was gonna say it also reminds me of the Thundercats jet. So,
Skyhound, my late uncle was very much so.
No, wait, I'm not talking about Thundercats.
Just a nitpick for details.
So many cats.
Yeah, SWAT Cat. Does anyone remember?
I remember SWAT Cats. I love that show.
Do you remember the one that was a knockoff where it was dogs? I can't remember what the title was.
No, I've never seen that, but I'll have to look it up. So, we're moving into summer months here, so my kids will. I'll probably try to find the SWAT Cats for my kids.
Has it shown up yet? Or is it on the screen?
It was a really good show.
It's buffering
It's buffering.
Yeah. By the way, Google the song Julian Smith buffering. It's hilarious. It's about waiting for your computer to buffer. But,
come on, you.
Okay.
Need that.
Oh, you're talking about that one. I thought you were talking about the one that was firing on the Hulk from the exterior.
No. I was talking about this one. This is that one from. Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Go back earlier into the stream after we're done.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't.
We can be right. We can both be right here, gentlemen.
Yeah, it looks like we're both right in regard.
No, because I'm the elder. I'm the elder, therefore I'm right.
We're finding out how wrong that is these days.
That
that was a Harrier. That wasn't a Harrier that was firing on the Hulk from the exterior. You didn't specify what the fighter was doing.
Yes, I did. When I said that the Hulk rips a wing off to throw at Thor, that was from the Harrier. That was from True Lies.
He did say that.
Enough.
I did. I will say I applaud your dedication to watching the movie with the audio commentary.
I did.
That's one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite things to do. I love watching movies.
I haven't had a chance to, although
you learn so much about them.
Sorry, Orange.
Yeah. Well, see, like when I watch something, I usually pay attention to character and plot. Like, and that's why I do all when you ask about like the music and stuff. That's why I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice.
I have to admit, I'm not crazy. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, CJ. I was just saying. I was just saying. I don't really usually like to watch commentary unless like I really love the movie, because for me it takes me out of the film. That's just a personal hang up of mine. It's nothing against people who like to do it. It's just like, I remember I drove my parents crazy because they wanted to watch the Lord of the Rings commentary, and I like threw a fit about it because I did not want to watch it, and they actually made me sit down and watch it. So now I can see every time it's a green screen. I was thanks, Mom and Dad, but I think if I had not been a little jerk about it, they would have just let me go to my room. But because I was a little jerk, they made me sit down and watch it. But I have not watched them for this film, for Avengers. I have not watched the commentary yet.
Maybe I need to.
When I get a movie to watch with the audio commentary, I make sure that I've seen the movie at least 2 to 3 times before I go to audio commentary. I should clarify that.
Well, I kind of figured that much. You don't get the audio commentary track in the theaters.
Yeah, because
although that would be kind of cool if you had that option.
Yeah, I think they did that for Way of the Dragon when it came to America one time. You could watch it with the audio commentary that the American editors did. No, I'm sorry, not Way of the Enter the Dragon. Apologies, not Way of the Dragon. Enter the Dragon, the Bruce Lee film. I think they had audio commentary from the director and the producer.
Oh wow, that'd be cool.
I mean,
I can forgive bad effects more easily than bad writing and bad character moments. So.
Oh, I can also spot green screen and blue screen. It's too easy because one, they never get the lighting right.
Yeah, lighting
can never match the lighting when it comes to a green screen or blue screen. However, there are certain scenes where they do get it right.
Yes,
in certain movies. But this movie, plus many of the other MCU movies in the future, you can definitely tell what is green screen, what is not.
Oh, well, I think at that point it's easier
And
to tell what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this
to
movie
address
was
the
made
viral-
before they. I was just saying this movie was made before they dove in head first into all the CGI. So
Yeah.
there are a few practical effects in this movie, which I think that adds to the richness of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is about that time where it's almost like crossing the Rubicon, where it's like a lot of movies are unwatchable after this just because of that. I mean, like I don't usually pay attention to it and I'm very forgiving of it, but like you can tell some things are just worked around the CGI too, and it's not good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
when I think of that, I
still-
think of Star Trek Beyond. So
One thing I will also say about this film, because are in the Battle of New York, everybody knows when or remembers when Hulk and Thor take down one of the behemoths, and it lands in
Leviathans.
Grand Central Park or Grand Central Station, and then Hulk just punches out. I only realized yesterday, and I am ashamed of this. I only realized yesterday that was Hulk getting back at Thor for the Mjolnir hit.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, why does he hit him? Why did son of a bitch? I mean, I pulled up Tony Stark. I'm like, son of a bitch. That's why.
Yeah, it makes
But-
all sense.
Going
Yeah.
back, but also to jump on one of Ambassador's points of Tony Stark's evolution in this movie, where he is such a narcissist when he's talking with Steve Rogers. But remember, they are slightly under the influence of the Mind Stone in that moment.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
he does listen when he says, "You're not one to make the sacrifice play to lay on a wire and let another guy crawl over you." I think I would just cut the wire, always a way out. And then later on, he's actually willing to sacrifice himself, fly a freaking nuke up into a portal. And
Okay.
one of the things I like about Jarvis is that he's like, Jarvis put everything into the thrusters. I just did. He didn't even have to wait for Tony's order because Jarvis is right there in his ear as well, hearing all the communications.
Yeah. And to answer Viral Earth's question, do you guys prefer Marvel or DC? Across the board, there are many properties of Marvel that I love. In DC, it's limited to like one or two, and the one or two is Batman and Green Lantern. So I'm definitely going to lean more on Marvel than DC.
I would
Not
say
to
if
mention the
Batman
movies.
was. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm done. I'm done, Jake. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say if Batman was Marvel, I'd be all Marvel. That is Batman kind of keeps me grounded into the DC universe. I like Superman and Wonder Woman fine, but if Batman is my favorite, the next four are all Marvel characters. I guess Wonder Woman slips in at number 5, maybe number 6, but then after that it's all Marvel again. So that would be my answer. I have another nerd friend who she actually did the artwork for my first novel, and I told her that, and she was just blown away because she's the opposite. She was all DC. She's like, if Spider-Man was DC, I'd be all DC. So,
CJ?
I don't like picking stuff like this because I like having the best of the best, and I think you can pick good ones from both sides. Like
Same.
I have a real appreciation for Justice League Unlimited, and my kids are watching the DCAU with Superman. I really like how they did him, except for like a couple things.
Are you talking about the Superman or the animated series from the 90s?
Yes.
Okay,
So-
because if you're talking about those movies that they had, the DCAU, the 15 movies,
that
do
was
not
called
let
the
your kids watch those.
DCAMU. The DCAMU.
Oh, well, whatever.
DCAU
Okay.
is Batman, the animated
Because-
series, and
Yeah.
all of those.
Yeah, the animated series, the Justice League, Batman, and Superman are great for kids. The DCAU that they did during the last decade,
Mhm.
you definitely don't want to show kids that because some of them
True,
have
true.
some of them have
Especially-
nudity and sexual content.
Yeah.
Especially Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, they will give your children nightmares.
Rip.
Well,
They're literally
that's
ripping a
true.
person
I've heard
in
adults
half.
have
Yeah.
nightmares from that. So
I saw
It's
that
how you
movie.
do
I'm like,
franchise.
"Hey, fuck."
It's how you
That
end a
was
franchise. I'll
intense.
say that.
But
what
to
I
answer-
do, I will say, like what I do tend to like about DC better is I think they're more grounded in reality.
Yes.
I know that sounds weird,
That's fair.
but I mean, like
No.
that's
No,
they're
they're-
more on the
yeah.
science fiction end of things, whereas Marvel to me is more on the fantastical.
Well,
Like,
look
all
who
over the
decided to
place.
show up.
So
I'm just
And
fashionably
Alan
late.
and it's about time.
Right.
This is not fashionably late. This is just insulting, Riot.
Hi. Hi. She's good.
What the hell? This is almost when you were late for this is almost as bad as when you were late for the Valen and Ray stream. What the hell?
Was she late for that?
And Jake and CJ
I
are talking
don't
about what the hell is
remember.
the best you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway,
I do. I just watched that. I just rewatched that stream. You were late, young lady. Hang your nerd head in shame. Your nerd car is
I'm in shame.
well, she popped in at a good time because we're talking about Marvel or DC, and that's pretty easy to warm you up. So
yeah. It's good. All right. Marvel or DC, right?
Marvel.
All right. And why?
Well, it's mostly because of the X-Men.
Good
I
franchise.
like their stories and stuff like that. I just think Marvel has, or at least most of the time, I'm not saying all of the time, had a better balance of like stories of bad guys, and DC kind of has almost the same kind of bad guys a lot of the time, or at least like kind of keeps redoing all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps resetting timelines, multiple universes. Marvel has that too, but it's not as egregious as DC, honestly. So it kind of makes it hard to connect with characters when they're trying to like reset and rework everything constantly.
It's true. DC likes to reset their timeline like every 5 years or so, but
Yeah.
Marvel does. Marvel once did that twice, to my knowledge, but they tend to do soft reboots. So, like the Iron Man Extremis, they kind of rebooted Iron Man from a Vietnam War era hero to a Gulf War hero. So it just was kind of like, oh yeah, this is the way it is now, as opposed to just resetting the whole universe. But as far as I know, Marvel has only done that twice with the latest Secret Wars, and then their whole dumb Marvel Now event. Boy, that was a train wreck. That was when they did the Secret Empire, where Captain America was a Hydra agent and all that.
No, we don't talk about that. We don't.
I like how they
talk
made
about
fun
that.
of it in
I
Endgame.
swear, dude, it's like I went off when that happened, and I'm not. No, we're not
and
going
the
there.
tacked on ending to explain it away.
Yeah, no, we're not talking about that. As for me, my Marvel versus DC, I'm more in CJ's camp, where
it's the best camp.
both
to
have
be
their
in,
merits.
so.
Both have their merits. Because in DC, you got a detective human who can kill every single superpowered being on his team and has contingencies to do so. You have in Marvel a futurist who is constantly improving his own tech for the betterment of mankind. So essentially, Marvel versus DC, it's like you have so many different characters who are pretty much carbon copies of each other. Quicksilver, Flash,
but
Jean
Quicksilver is
no.
actually interesting.
You got Batman versus Tony Stark, which actually, if you think about it, a more apt fight with Batman would be Daredevil.
I was gonna say he's more connected to Daredevil.
However, it's the billionaire and their tinkering or their Tinker Toys that is the biggest parallel that I draw from those.
Honestly, when I think of like
Yeah,
DC
but
stuff,
Sarkis
I like
Daredevil
it's like
is
kind of
loose.
like disconnected stuff and like their own universes with like complete storylines and like not necessarily like what is considered the main continuity. So yeah,
But
I have to
another
put
thing-
Marvel above DC. in
DC
that
that I
regard,
like
so.
about DC, they're not afraid to kill a main character. They're not. They'll kill a main character. They
And
killed
then
Tim
resurrect
Drake.
him.
They
A year
killed
later,
all sorts of other. I mean,
And then
the dark,
resurrect him.
the dark DC or the dark DC universes with the different dark Batmans, Grim Knight, Batman Who Laughs, and whatnot. Batman Who Laughs slaughtered the entire Justice League in that universe. It took Batman. It took Batman teaming up with the Joker to stop to stop the Batman Who Laughs.
I think they overmilked it though, unfortunately.
Yeah, I actually think that miniseries, the Batman Who Laughs, where it was just Batman versus that character, I thought that was kind of like, okay, it's time to wrap this up. I actually didn't like that he had to team up with the Joker. I would have preferred Batman just to beat him on his own. I own it. I'm not, so I'm the chief among sinners about buying it, but in regards to stuff with this is one reason why I like Marvel Universe better. To me, it feels. I know CJ, you said the DC Universe feels more grounded, but to me, I feel like Marvel is more grounded. And it offers a slightly more optimistic view of humanity than DC does, as far as how we're going, how we're shaping up. And I know they have titles that sometimes contradict this, but I kind of I feel like pre-2016 Marvel was very more optimistic about humanity and where humanity is going and what we can do and our accomplishments. And I really think that was Stan Lee, who of course helped put together the Avengers. I think he had a lot to do with that. The DC never really had a Stan Lee. I mean, to be frank, I mean, they never really had someone who just contributed that much. They didn't have a Jack Kirby. Well, they had Jack Kirby, and then they promptly chased him away. So
when I said more grounded, I meant more like gritty. Like the thing I like about DC, I think on some level, is that you can adapt it better on some level to what's happening, and I see it as more of a reflection of culture in many ways, because like a lot of the DCAU stuff that I'm watching with my kids, like with Superman and Batman animated series, there's still a lot of optimism there, which is like kind of how I would describe the 90s, is very optimistic and very colorful. And
you're not wrong.
With well, of course I'm not. But with like the Dark Knight, I think that was kind of like the beginning of DC's like descent into nihilism and madness, is kind of like is like testing the waters for more well, definitely not optimistic sort of things.
So getting back into the movie Riot, what were your favorite scenes, characters, and whatnot?
Well, as a whole, I really love the Avengers. I could probably rewatch that movie over and over again. My favorite parts were, I think, the argument in the Shield
in the lab.
base, the helicarrier, with like Hulk, Captain America, Thor, so Iron Man. So I really like that scene with like the witty banter, and it just kind of feels like college classmates working on a school project for some reason. That was kind of funny. It's just like take off the suit. What are you? So, whatever. Or like no, it's just, and then Cap saying like I understood that reference. It's just like, and then Tony and Bruce nerding out, that kind of a thing, and then Thor when they were arguing about Loki, it's just like Thor chiming in, he's adopted. It's like he murdered 10 people, and then Black Widow comes in.
80
it's like he
people.
murdered, like
80 people.
Yeah, he murdered 80 people in like 2 days. So
he's adopted. I do love that though. I mean,
it's just like there's so much back and forth, and like the chemistry between the actors were great. So
that guy's brain is a bag full of cats. You could smell crazy on him.
Yay.
yeah, that's a great.
It is a great scene. Sorry, had to.
It's okay.
But yeah, what'd you think of the Battle in New York?
Oh, the Battle in New York was crazy. looking back on it, and I think maybe my senses were dulled after seeing so many bad fights of like this magnitude, where it's like it's just like one character doing something, and it's like, okay, like, and then it's just like, okay, and then time is paused for everyone else, and then like this, and then another scene starts with those characters, and then they're finally doing something again. And I felt that in DC a lot myself with their fights or whatever. And then I rewatched that fight scene with New York, and I'm like, wow, everyone's doing something. You feel like everyone is engaged and involved in the battle. The cinematography is great. I like the Thor and Hulk teaming up, and then Hulk just punching Thor at the end. It feels like everyone's involved and engaged. Like I feel like I've kind of just like not seen that in cinemas a lot, or even in TV shows too. I felt
that is actually something that Marvel did very well with their movies. They actually made sure to keep each sequence in the same battle as time is going by. So when they jump between different characters, it is still the same time. Or it's still moving along with the time.
Thor is fighting a...
Yeah.
Okay, great line. Thor is fighting a squadron over on Fifth Avenue, and he didn't fight me.
One of the things I do like is Captain America, when he's talking, or when these cops are like, the National Guard, does the Army even know what's happening here? Then Cap comes in. Now, for those of you who don't know, I like the movie, or I like the show Blue Bloods. And the guy who is like, why should I take orders from you? And then he sees Cap wreck a couple of Chitauri, and he's like, get people out of those buildings, get them in the subway. We're going to set up a perimeter all the way down to 39. That's Lieutenant Gormley from Blue Bloods, who just got a promotion after they were Blue Bloods, I believe, debuted in 2009. And in like season 3, which was in 2012, he gets bumped up to 1 PP, but he was out for a good stretch for a bit because he had to do the filming for Avengers. And it's like, well, there you go. And
for that one,
then he got promoted. He got promoted in the show, right?
Yeah,
that's cool.
He got promoted in the show.
That is cool. I like that.
He went from Danny Reagan's precinct to 1 PP to help work with the commissioner. So it's like, well, there you go. He gets promoted.
Thomas Magnum.
Yeah, and one of my favorite scenes is the Hulk smash with the Puny God. Now, one of the things that they were originally going to do was something that he did with Thor on the Bifrost, which was the multiple clones of Loki. When Bruce Banner, in my clip that I have, that man's brain is a bag full of cats, you can smell crazy on him. Smell was actually supposed to play a big role with the Hulk. He was supposed to smell Loki through all the clones and then grab him and smash him. Which was one of the original concepts. Also, I cannot discuss this movie without discussing Harry Dean Stanton. You fell out of the sky. You fell out of the sky.
Yes.
Did I hurt anybody?
Yes.
No, nobody around here to get hurt. You did scare the hell out of some pigeons, though.
Yes, the security guard. I recognize. The first time I ever saw it, it's like, that's Harry Dean Stanton. That's, what's his face, from Alien.
And I love it because he's like, are you an alien? What? From outer space, an alien? No. Well, son,
you got a condition.
He actually, there's a deleted scene where he actually talks to him outside of that area after he gets dressed, and basically gives him some advice to get him into the fight. And I will fully admit this: when I was in theaters and I saw Banner, just as he says, I'm always angry, and then just immediately transform into the Hulk. I'm like, what the actual? Because he just immediately turns into him in like 1 second. And I'm like, considering how long it takes for him to transform, this means he has a good lid on it. That's my secret, Captain. I'm always angry. So he can turn at the drop of a hat. When he takes longer to turn, he's resisting it. He doesn't want the Hulk to come out, but the Hulk is pushing himself out. So it is really good when he actually one-shots the behemoth that comes out. Also,
Leviathan.
Go ahead.
It's called a Chitauri Leviathan, not Behemoth.
Sorry, Leviathan. But Behemoth, Leviathan, they're both big things. But anyway,
the creature is called a Leviathan, not a Behemoth.
Quit nitpicking. Anyway,
no, it's what I do.
Actually, I was reading that Joss Whedon wanted to use the Kree for this scene, but again, Paramount wasn't ready to introduce them because they wanted to introduce, before Disney took everything, they wanted to use Captain Marvel, which Captain Marvel is connected to the Kree. So that's why they went with the Chitauri, because the Chitauri were introduced in the Ultimate comics and ironically enough, ultimately were not accepted by fans. So that's why they used them for this film, was they just wanted to have a throwaway alien race that would never be mentioned again, and that's why the Chitauri was chosen for this film.
They were only mentioned in one deleted scene in Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Rocket Raccoon berates him, and he's like, "Well, why didn't you just take out their mothership?" Because we didn't know about it. Everybody knows that you got to destroy the mothership when it comes to the Chitauri.
Okay, can we? Okay, I want. Can we discuss my theory now about the portal and why Stark got back through? Beans, we're talking about this.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here is my theory about why Stark fell back through the portal. We understand that the Tesseract acts as a bridge or a gate in space.
Yeah.
We also, I think we can agree to an extent that it does, with the Chitauri's space station, whatever signals or whatever atmosphere is being beamed or being transferred into their suits or their masks or whatever is coming through the portal. I believe that there is a reality bleed due to the Tesseract or the Space Stone. So there is a bit of gravity in space near where Tony goes through. And once he lets go of the nuke and he loses power, that gravity starts to pull him back through the portal and he gets back to Earth.
That's honestly what I always assumed.
There's also the fact that the nuke had an exhaust or the propulsion from the nuke pushed him back down too, because he was pretty high up in space. So high up in space that he lost Jarvis.
Mm-hmm.
And
lost
all functions. So when he started getting closer to the portal or Earth's gravity was also bleeding into the portal, so it does make sense. You're not exactly wrong there. And CS has to go, so alrighty, take care, CS.
Bye.
Bye, CS. We miss you. Talk to you later.
Thank you for
CS and CS's face.
Yes, bye. Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Lady, right.
She is awesome. But that is a
is.
good theory because it's actually kind of what happens, but with the added element of the propulsion. I do like it how Thor's getting ready to go. He's not slowing down, and then Hulk ends up saving him, and then Hulk ends up waking him up too. It's like, you gonna wake up? Gonna wake up! He just roars and freaking it's like, or he's like, ah! What the hell?
Did anybody kiss me?
Nobody kissed
Did anyone kiss me?
Yeah. Does anybody want to try shawarma? There's a shawarma joint around where he saw the shawarma joint.
Scarlett Johansson give me CPR.
Yeah. Not the mouth. There you go. But the shawarma joint is actually where he got smacked into after he blew up the second Leviathan with the knee missiles.
Oh,
It's
that's
cool.
right.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right. Interesting.
Yeah.
yeah, because they're cleaning up and everything from the battle and everything while they're sitting eating. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
they just ran with it. They just ran with it. Like the after credit scenes, like it's like we're just eating shawarma.
now also
Well-
I did say that real quick. I did say I like Blue Bloods, and I pointed out Lieutenant Gormley from Blue Bloods being in this movie. In a deleted scene after the Battle of New York, where Maria Hill is being talked about or talked to the World Security Council, they didn't have the actors from the World Security Council from the movie, so they used a couple of different ones. Lou Carroll or Carrillo from Blue Bloods, who plays Henry Reagan, the grandfather, the patriarch of the family,
yeah.
was one of the World Security Council members. When she
Didn't
says, "Oh, by the way, you guys wanting to drop a nuke on New York, that's on official record."
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that had a very worried look on his face was Henry Reagan from Blue Bloods. And it's like, yeah, okay.
I haven't watched Blue Bloods in a while. I've watched like a few episodes here and there, but I remember Tom Selleck in that. So.
It's the only show today that I will watch. It's the only show that's on air continuing today that I will watch, because they aren't they introduce identity politics and whatnot in it, but it shows that the police are not giving into that crap and that he wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah. I have a dumb question. Could we possibly react to something? Because
what do we want to react to?
Is anybody familiar with the channel Bad Lip Reading?
Yes,
No.
very much so. Siegel, stop
Has
it now.
anybody? Huh?
Siegel, stop it now.
Has anybody seen, aside from maybe myself and maybe Orange, it's called the Redneck Avengers?
No, I have not seen that.
I have
I've
not
not
seen
seen
it.
And
I don't think
popularity of the
I don't.
Avengers.
I don't think you'll get a copyright for it because it's from another channel, so we should be okay.
If
they may
shows
flag
any
us. So
footage-
Bad Lip Reading may flag you.
any footage from the Avengers, we will get hit, and they'll pull the
Okay,
string.
well, never mind.
So
All right, never
Paramount,
mind then.
it is
You can
under
share it in
Paramount.
chat, you know.
It is under Paramount and Disney. But yes, I believe you are a mod in the chat, right, Ambassador?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping we could react to it, but it's okay.
We-
Yeah, I can share it.
They will pull.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
No, I
they've
don't want. I
actually started
don't.
noticing my channel.
Orange. I don't want the stream to get pulled. I was kind of
Yeah.
hoping we could, but since we can't, I'll just share it in the
Yeah.
chat. That's fine.
But yeah, they're
Damn.
actually starting to notice my channel a little bit more now, because I've had a couple of copyright claims on my videos
Damn.
recently.
Absolutely
Damn
ridiculous.
Paramount.
It's not just.
If it was just Disney, it's Disney
Whoa.
too. I know. Well, Disney doesn't see it because there's clips of there's leaked clips of Guardians Volume 3, and no one seems to care.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just share the link in the chat.
Whenever I first started my channel, I was just doing trailer reactions, and I stopped doing that specifically because I would get so many copyright hits, and I wouldn't even show it on screen. I would watch it on an iPad, so you would only hear the audio, and I would have the audio turn low, and I would just kind of look up and make an expression, and I got copyright struck for that. Warner Brothers hit me several times. And that's why I was like, okay, I guess I need to find something else besides trailer reactions.
Well, so
Orange Hat, I'm not a mod. I don't have a blue wrench.
Orange, correct this injustice.
Ambassador,
it's okay.
Do a comment, please, or put a comment in the chat, please.
I just put the link in the chat. I just
no, put a comment in the live chat, please.
I did.
Oh, well,
I just put the link in the chat.
Up for me. It's like not on StreamYard, so.
Alrighty. I'm not seeing Ambassador's comment in the live
open.
chat. So.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it either. No.
I'm not seeing it either.
You didn't, because if you're not,
all right, hang on.
If you're not Just say hi in the damn chat.
No, it's all right. I think
Because automatically, if
I was
or
in
if
the
you're
top
not,
chat, so that
no, if you're not in a chat or if you're not a mod, you cannot put a link. They will or it won't work. It automatically discards your comment.
I'm in the top chat now. So let's see. Maybe I'm wrong. That'll be the first time. Okay, it's in there. I'm in the live chat.
All right. Did you put hi or something? Because I'm still not seeing your comment.
There. Hi.
Check. Filter all messages. There we go. That is mod. Should I do managing or standard?
Just do standard. I don't manage
You're a manager.
stuff.
You're a managing moderator. I think
Oh,
those are the ones that allow links. But yes, there you go.
Okay,
Now you're
fine, whatever.
now try saying something so I can see whether or not you're a mod. Now say ho. Hi, ho. Let's go.
Okay, saw that one.
Yep, there you go.
Yay.
Ready. So that's all well and done. Good job. So, what other things did I want to add to this?
We got to talk about the face-off with Loki with the entire team.
Oh yeah, after he gets smashed,
Yes.
he's getting up. And he's like, "If it's all the same to you, I'll have that drink now." And then they put the most sexualized ball gag mouth cover on Loki.
Oh, that is
why
not.
do you think?
I
No,
don't feel that way.
Why do you think Widow turns her head, says something, and Hawkeye is just cracking up?
I thought it was just because
She
look
could
at this
say
big guy. Yeah, I didn't think it was like
It was
that.
Look at this guy.
Like
He's on the ground.
gag.
He looks ridiculous.
It's Joss Whedon. Do you really expect any less?
I don't know.
No, I don't expect less from him, but I don't think that was happening in this scene. If I'm just being honest,
I never noticed that.
I always thought it was just like a metal mouth cover, so he couldn't. So if he spoke, he couldn't cast a spell like he did with Banner.
Yeah.
Well,
that was my
impression.
impression.
Just annoying because I know we're many months away from it, but if you remember in Avengers Endgame, they actually showed the aftermath, and Thor just gets tired of him talking, and just slaps that muzzle on him.
Although it does, or a lot of people were basically drawing the same conclusion as Jake, where it's like so he doesn't speak to create a spell or anything.
Yep.
That's what I assumed. Whenever I first saw it.
Well,
that's what I also assume.
Well, that's when we get to Endgame, I was about to pick up a nitpick, but we all saw how the cube worked in this movie, right? How when anybody touched it, it kind of burned their hands and whatnot.
Right.
Well, when we get to Endgame, I'm gonna readdress that. So then we get to the aftermath and we get the Stan Lee cameo inside of the news. Heroes in New York, give me a break. And CNN is like the most prominent of the news organizations in these movies. It's like, that was basically back when CNN had a slight bit of objectivity. They were already losing their objectivity. But
they're starting to get back, though. But that's a different story.
They're starting to, but not by much. But
2%.
Time.
Yeah, 2%.
No.
The virtue.
Actually, no. About 12%. About 12%. Call back to this movie.
I get what you're doing there, and I love it. Yes, I'm having 12% of a moment. That's what
Yeah,
she said.
well, another thing, Joss Whedon. Did anybody else notice a wicked difference in Pepper Potts' demeanor in this movie compared to Iron Man 2?
To me, she felt more like Iron Man 1, if I was to be honest. You're right.
Where she basically wants to get it on with Tony in that scene. Get in here, and I will.
Again, I didn't sense that energy. I've watched this movie like 10 times now. She was dressed normally. She had shorts and a shirt on. I don't know what
the skimpiest cutoff denim shorts.
She did not.
Maybe they look normal.
Those are normal length.
Okay.
Orange.
Was barefoot.
I'll look this up. I don't remember exactly what she was wearing.
I do. Those shorts that she was wearing were normal, decent length. They weren't like booty shorts that were right up her ass crack. So get your mind out of the gutter, Orange.
Now, I will say about this on this scene, slightly different subject, but on this scene, there is something that always kind of bothered me about it was Avengers Tower is prominently shown, and then it's never revisited again. They get a totally different base in Age of Ultron, and
that is Avengers Tower. It's just
this is not
for like 5 seconds. And,
it's Stark Tower.
Well, I know, but it's supposed to become Avengers Tower. It even looks like it does in the comics, and even in the Netflix series when they did the poster for the Defenders, they put it very prominently in the poster for the Defenders because the Netflix shows were originally connected to it.
Yeah, and
now obviously they're not. But I even remember like this. I was thinking, oh my gosh, this is it. We're finally getting Avengers Tower because when we get to Iron Man 3, Tony isn't using that tower anymore. He's using a different place upstate. So that's why I'm thinking, oh, this is it. This is going to be the tower, and then it ends up just becoming a warehouse somewhere. So I was kind of disappointed with later on, obviously not while I'm watching the movie. When I was watching it, I was trying not to throw my popcorn up and with excitement. But in the later on, I was kind of disappointed that this didn't become Avengers headquarters, like on a more permanent basis.
Apparently he did sell it.
It did bother me.
I can't remember who he sold it to.
They don't say, but the rumor is it's going to be Norman Osborn or it's going to be Reed Richards.
Building.
Yeah.
They said, because they say that the building's for sale, we got to get it all out of here in Spider-Man Homecoming, which we are going to be discussing, folks. That is an MCU film.
Yes.
But the other ones
I want to bring something up because I want to bring something up here. You perv.
What? Are we talking about Pepper Potts'
Those
outfit
are not
again?
too short.
Yeah, I don't think they look too short. They look normal.
I agree with Ambassador. Yes,
I'll concede the point.
They're very good.
Yeah, those are regular shorts.
They're like beach. Yeah, they're like walking around in casual shorts. Is what they look like to me.
All right, I'll concede.
Yeah, I have shorts like those, and also shorter shorts, which are definitely. Yeah, I've seen the booty shorts. Those are not booty shorts. So.
Well, I wasn't saying they were booty shorts, but I was saying that they were skimpy at least.
Yes, you were.
Or like like skimpier shorts. I mean, those are not skimpy.
But then again, like I said, it could be that I've been more noticing certain things with Joss Whedon productions.
I felt like he got more bold.
Okay, let me say something here. At this point in Pepper and Tony's relationship, they've probably had sex. It's probably
did you see what she was whispering in his ear when she's like, "What? When you're not working?"
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And he's like, the look on his face
saw the
says it
expression,
all.
but
yeah, they're more casual and less professional. So
yeah,
because of that.
Yeah, exactly. So
They
get
are in a
your mind out of the
relationship.
gutter, Orange.
Well, it's not too much of a stretch that Joss Whedon has his ladies dressing.
I don't care about
More
your
down.
nitpick with Joss Whedon in terms of the story, in terms of the universe, in terms of putting this in a semi-real world situation. Pepper and Tony, by the time of Avengers 1, have probably had sex a few times, if not more. So her
And
whispering
there's not
something
a
in his
problem
ear
with
that's
that.
kind of
I
naughty.
am simply saying,
Yeah,
from a production standpoint,
Yeah, that
there's nothing wrong with her outfit. There is
yeah,
not
that's
a
like a
damn thing
normal
wrong with her
outfit.
I don't
outfit.
think there's
Sorry,
anything
I'm
wrong
sorry,
with it.
Orange. I have to agree with Ambassador. Yeah,
All
there's
right,
nothing
fine.
wrong with the outfit. It's perfectly normal.
There is.
That's
I
good.
have.
I mean, for
this
Pete's
is,
sake, Wonder Woman's. One thing, real quick. Wonder Woman's costume in Justice League, or even in Zack Snyder's Justice League, is more skimpy than what Pepper's wearing.
Yeah,
Also,
they
the
also made a
Amazons.
Tell
they
me I'm
also
wrong.
did make a.
Tell me I'm
they
wrong.
I know.
also did. No,
I
you're
thought-
right. They
I
also
thought-
made a fact to comment on that, because I believe there is a difference between the scenes in those two different films, where when she's jumping off of the spider in the sewers, one, you can almost see ass crack in the Justice League version.
Okay,
I haven't
but
seen
here,
it, so I don't
Wait,
know.
which scene? What?
I don't like Zack Snyder, but anyway, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. I think he's a terrible filmmaker. I think he makes Tommy Wiseau look like a genius, but when it comes to and I've met Tommy Wiseau, by the way. But
Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
I'd go farther if people let me. But I would like to point out that the Amazons and the Joss Whedon cut were basically in bikinis. They were wearing about the same thing in Zack Snyder's cut.
Well,
So all the criticism that Joss Whedon got, and then Zack Snyder does the same thing. So I don't even want to hear it about that.
Zack Snyder also does movies where there's actual sex scenes. So,
oh yeah,
300 ringing a bell? Anybody?
Yeah, I'm looking at
Watchmen?
the Amazon.
That's his
substance
one
and,
good
like,
movie,
they're
300.
Like,
Watchmen
But
was
anyway,
good.
all right, I will concede.
Watchmen was boring. Snooze fest.
I will concede the Pepper Potts thing. So,
No.
Good.
Okay.
Final-
Now listen. From now on, listen to your elders. Ergo, me.
funny.
and me.
Um,
No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
Final
Okay, I guess
thoughts.
I'm here.
Or final thoughts. What is everybody's final thoughts on Avengers and their rating?
Who's going first?
Ladies
Let's wait.
first.
Let's ladies go
Okay,
first. Ladies first. So Riot.
Avengers is a very, very good movie. You know, I almost forgot like what multiple perspective, like what good multiple perspective, multiple combatant fighting feels like. It's like good, actual good multiple combatant and multiple characters. Like it feels like a very flowing, cohesive movie. You know, it doesn't feel like characters' time is just stopped. Like when they're out of the shot, you know. Yeah, it's a good setup for Thanos too, even just with that one scene, and yeah, it's like everything like is very, very good. Some of the issues I have are like maybe a little bit of the pacing in the beginning, and I don't know. I guess maybe just like kind of like the weird 180 with Agent Coulson, I guess, just because.
We never discussed Coulson or his death. Shit.
Yeah. Wait,
we
why
did,
didn't you do
actually.
it? Oh.
We never did. You
We
weren't,
did,
or
because Jack,
we glossed over it.
Hey, I talked about it in my little
We never
segment.
talked about the weapon he
Jack
had.
talked
Yeah,
about
I know we did, but we never talked about the weapon he had, which also plays or wait until we get there, or when it's my turn, I'll touch on it.
Yeah, this is probably like a 9 out of 10 movie for me. It's
All right.
pretty good. It's highly rewatchable for like references now that I know a bit more of Marvel and all that other stuff. So,
All right, Ambassador.
Final thoughts. It was a perfect cap to Phase 1. It was by far one of the best comic book movies of the last 11 years. It still holds up. It still stands on its own. Even though I didn't get to see it in theaters, it is extremely highly rewatchable. The score, the main score, the Avengers score by Alan Silvestri, perfect. And for me, this goes in my top 10 of all time movies, not just comic book movies, all time top 10. Yes. And it is on a score a 10 out of 10.
All right, Jake.
I agree. 10 out of 10. It's still my favorite MCU movie of all time. I often debate this with my sister because Iron Man is her favorite, which no shade. I love Iron Man as a film, but
Thor is my favorite. So
there you go. This movie is just a well-rounded introduction to the Avengers, and 12-year-old me who watched Avengers United They Stand. They kind of had a proto-Avengers and Spider-Man the animated series, and I read the comics. This was just incredibly exciting for me. There's something to. I know people are anti-nostalgia now for some reason, but besides this movie just bringing back all the nostalgia that of being a nerd, of reading the Avengers and getting offended when people are like, Iron Man is a second tier Marvel character. I'm like, what are you talking about? Iron Man's a founding Avenger. He's a first tier Marvel character. I just was it just totally blew my mind how amazing it was. I love how it introduced Thanos. I have to admit, I wasn't expecting Thanos. I thought that they were going to introduce a different villain. But I was very excited to see Thanos, having read the Infinity Gauntlet, years before, and I was blown away by it. And of course, like I said, in the beginning of the stream, this was my first real date with my now wife. She was my girlfriend at the time. And it was really cool getting to bring her into my world, so to speak. And it actually worked out because she actually was kind of hiding that she was into anime. So I got her into comic books and she got me into anime. So it all was a well-rounded, happy memory on top of it. So yeah, 10 out of 10. And I wouldn't be surprised. I know Iron Man got put in the Library of Congress, or what was it? Not the Library of Congress, the American Film Institute, right? Where they preserve films.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if this one follows suit. I think that's how much I like it. I think it, like Ambassador said, it's also in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. So I hope to see it there where it's preserved, because I think it is truly one of the greats, not just within the MCU, but just as part of the sci-fi genre in general.
All right. As for me, I'm going to give final thoughts and scores, but I also wanted to touch on a couple of points. The weapon that Coulson uses was then placed in the game that adapted off of this movie, which was Marvel's Avengers Alliance, that was on Facebook. It was called Coulson's Revenge, which is a very fitting name. And fun fact about the nuke that blows up, or that they fire, when the pilot launches it, he says T-minus 2 minutes 30 seconds. 2 minutes 32 seconds is when the nuke goes off from the time of launch to the scene where it detonates against the Chitauri ship. So it's actually a very good timing moment there. However, in the movie, the timing, they say it's less than a minute, yada yada. It doesn't fit with the less than a minute part. Another fun fact: when the post-credit scene shows Thanos standing up, and when the other tells him to challenge them is to court death, Thanos is looking at a planet that is half destroyed, which is a great foreshadow to who this person was if people didn't know. Thanos always had a habit of destroying half of everything. So yeah, him looking at half a destroyed planet was a really nice touch there. As for the movie itself, I think that this movie, objectively, because I always do my 3 tiers, objectively, it is about an 8 out of 10. There are blue screen and green screen sequences that are badly lit. A couple continuity errors. However, there is great writing, great story, and it was well directed. Joss Whedon may be a perv, but he's also a very good director. I'll give him that. Behind the scenes stuff notwithstanding, this is about the final cut of the movie. Subjective, this movie is about a 9 out of 10 for me. Moviegoer, where I don't break it down, I'm just going on entertainment value. This is a 10 out of 10. Also, because Riot Kitty said Thor is her favorite movie, I gotta play this.
This is a new feeling. Pride in someone else.
Thank you. I think.
Well, yeah, it's like I did say Thor was my favorite MC or Phase 1 film.
Oh, cool. All right.
Aside from the Hulk, Thor is in my opinion, is the best MCU Phase 1 film. Yes, Avengers is up there, but in my opinion, Thor was the best objectively.
Heck yeah, digital high five. Oh.
There you go. Never mind. Anyway, thank you so much to everybody in the chat. We had, let's see here, Ambassadorial Wang, who became a mod. Congratulations.
Again.
Random Witty Name, Skyhound, 28, Enviro Earth, Brett Yeamans, Kristen Frakes, ND Geeks, Force of Light Entertainment, and Vanya and Phil TMNT. Stay tuned for next week, folks, when we all discuss Iron Man 3, where Tony Stark has PTSD. Stay tuned for Tuesday for my channel for the mystery review that everybody is getting wrong, no matter how many times they want to think it's right. I will give you some hints, and I'm going to tell you right now, it's not the obvious answer you're all thinking of. The first hint, I believe, was spores, mold, and fungus. The second one was Shockbox and cards. The third hint is Sigourney Weaver. And the fourth hint I'll drop right now, Ivo Shandor. Do not spoil it if you know it. But I'm already telling you, it is not the obvious answer.
I'm guessing that's Alien or Aliens or something like that.
No.
Well, I mean the obvious answer for that.
No, the obvious answer is everybody's guessing is Ghostbusters. It's not the obvious answer. But anyway, also Wednesday, we're in the final 2 weeks of May. So Wednesday, Mara, Jade Shadow, and I are going to be doing the 1s and 2s on her channel, where we're discussing Top Gun this week and Top Gun Maverick next week.
Nice.
8 p.m. Eastern Standard on her channel. So go subscribe to Jade Shadow. Just look up Jade Shadow. It's a very easy channel to find. She is a great YouTuber, folks. She does not pull punches when she does her videos. Let's just say that, and I absolutely love her for it. Anyway, thank you so much to Riot and Jake, C.S. Johnson, and Ambassador for joining tonight. Y'all have a wonderful night. Is there anything anybody wants to plug before we go?
Just head over to my channel, Studio Jake, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscriptions, so I'm at over 750. So I'm more than halfway there. Really appreciate everyone who has subscribed so far, and just help me get to 1,000. Would really appreciate it.
All righty, Ambassador.
I got nothing. I'm good.
All right, Riot.
Well, I'm Riot Kitty, and well, I have a new video coming out this Friday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I am submitting an AMV to a contest for the game Honkai Star Rail. So,
all right,
nice. You guys check that out. So that's all I got to plug now.
Okay, make sure that you check out all these channels: Ambassadorial Wing, Studio Jake Media, and Riot Kitty. Also, C.S. Johnson, check out her channel too, at Writer C.S. Johnson. You can find all these folks on Twitter as well. And I will see y'all next week for Iron Man 3, start of phase 2, which was also the last of the Paramount films. Anyway, folks, have a wonderful night. Y'all take it easy. And always remember, stay humble.